I think it's time for the hammering. I think it's a perfect segue. They want you to feel down. They want you to feel like losers. Well, how about we get spoken down to by one of the weakest foreign ministers you'll ever see in your life, the one from Canada? What do you think? Let's do it.
Stop the hammering.
Go ahead, Boogie.
Well, this is a rare treat in light of trade talks, in light of tariffs, in light of sanctions, James. There's nothing like seeing a softly spoken, weak as piss, I would call it, performance by your counterparts in Canada, declaring why Canada is going to kick your little bottoms red raw in regards to a trade war. But it's not actually called a trade war because, you know what, that just sounds a little bit too mean. So let's check it out.
Let's start out with what your prime minister said. Very, very harsh discussions, harsh words this past week, saying that there's a turning point now in
Justin Trudeau was being harsh. I don't think so.
Canadian relationship.
You better be nice or you're going to timeout.
Well, first of all, Dana, it is very nice to be with you. Thank you for the invitation. I stood beside the Prime Minister when he made those statements, and they were strong statements because I think what it's important for Americans to understand
Here we go.
is the
now listen, Americans. Now, I think what's important for Americans to understand. Oh, this ought to be good. We're getting spoken down to. Let's start.
Under your rules for the imposition of these tariffs was a national security consideration.
Yes.
So what you are saying to us,
that was dripping with condescension.
Is that we somehow represent a national...
You'll see this throughout this interview. It's a lot of like big smiles at the end of it. So it's like, okay, so do you understand how you're wrong and how this is going to hurt you? It's not very nice, is it? You know, you wouldn't want that, would you now? It's concern trolling. This is political concern trolling. After you see this, you'll understand full well why Canada has completely lost control of its borders and why the current Prime Minister in Canada, Justin Trudeau, dresses up in Indian garb to celebrate multiculturalism and feels cucky when people use the term mankind. Oh, I'm sorry. We say humankind here. We say humankind.
Have you seen how many outfits it's like that guy is like the epitome of the stage puppet. Every country they take him to, they put him in this like ridiculous, most traditional outfit they can find. Like literally like a kimono and some wooden slippers, and he's walking around like this. I mean, what the hell is wrong? These people are like the biggest panderers there are on the planet. It's retarded.
I feel like this is just repression. This is repressed. He's acting out, Justin Trudeau, because his dream job would have been playing the role of Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. But he didn't get the...
he lost it. He lost it to Mike Myers when they went in to do the casting call. They were like, man, this is a tough one. It's either Justin or Mike. I don't know. We got to pick here. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go with Mike since he's talented.
Yeah, he's funny as well. He's funny and he's not repulsive. But let's carry on with your lecture. You're talking down. You're in the naughty corner. I want to be clear here.
This isn't a pundit. This is literally the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the country of Canada that is dripping this condescension on Americans and thinking she's like the schoolmarm chastising us.
Oh, it's a torrent. You're drowning in it. You're drowning in condescension. Never mind dripping. It is an absolute torrent.
Threat to the United States. And I would just say to all of Canada's American friends, and there are so many, seriously?
Seriously? That's the argument.
That is a government official. That was her response. Yep. Seriously?
Yep. Seriously? Like, you know, guys, like, you know, I took a selfie with Justin and he was on the stage. He was kind of like a little bit upset about this whole trade brouhaha. It's like, can't we just be friends, guys? You know, like, seriously, like, come on.
That your NATO allies represent a national security threat to you. And that's why the Prime Minister said it is, frankly,
the beautiful part about this, James, and audience, you'll see is the CNN host, actually pulls her up. And actually, you think you're in the Twilight Zone because she's actually, this woman is so bad and so terrible. The CNN host is actually like, well, you know what? Donald Trump's just saying what he was going to do. Like, he's just doing what he said he was going to do. Like, don't you think you're being a bit ridiculous here? It's incredible.
Reagan visited Canada.
Hold on. I gotta read this. I have to read this. Millie just put in the comments, like, oh my God, like, gag me with a chainsaw. Oh my God.
Of course, as long as that chainsaw was made with good US made steel, then it's okay. Not going to be the Canadian steel. Those days are over.
Friends and neighbors and allies, we are kin who together have built the most productive relationship between any two countries in the
Isn't
world.
That lovely?
That was Ronald Reagan, and that's how Canadians feel. And so this is a really sad time for us.
It's sad.
We are hurt we're insulted.
You mentioned the fact that the Trump
see the little like at the end of it, like, and we're insulted. Yep. You know that annoying thing that people do. It's like when you go to the It's like when you go to the DMV and you try to renew your driver's license, and they're like, "I'm sorry, but due to some kind of ridiculous regulation that nobody's ever heard of, we're not going to be able to renew your license today." Okay. And they just smile as if to say, "Okay, that's it. No more questions. Don't ask any more questions. Okay, bye now. Bye."
And don't you love how they leave you sitting in line for like 2 hours before they tell you that too? You know, that you'd think at the information window, they could make sure all your shit's lined up, so that took you 5 minutes instead of waiting 5 hours and then being told, sorry, can't help you today.
Yeah, that's just a great argument for the government taking over everything, isn't it? Good on you, Democrats.
Reliance on steel from other countries limits the U.S. ability to produce military equipment should the need arise. America's first Homeland Security Secretary, Tom Ridge, or first advisor, I should say, wrote in an op-ed. He wrote this:
too good for
to rely upon foreign producers to provide for our domestic and military infrastructure amid such uncertainty is short-sighted and impedes our ability to be prepared and agile. Steel capacity is not something that can be replaced at the snap of a finger should allies become unreliable or our enemies disrupt the supply chain. By way of
because I agree with this, because wouldn't it be awful if America had to go to war and produce a number of war machines at the drop of a hat, and you call up Justin Trudeau and he's like, sorry guys, I'm going to be opening a curry house, so can we get together? I mean,
dude, I wanted to make a point, and you just made me laugh my ass off. Oh my God, dude.
If we shoot let's remember, if we shoot our enemies, they win. But like, most of all, I mean, these pompadoms are smoking hot. Like, I can't take that down.
So this is I wanted to just point out to that exact point was that when you're a friend, that doesn't mean you're dependent on them. When you're dependent on somebody else, then you're in their power. And that would put Justin Trudeau and the country of Canada in control of whether or not the U.S. could pursue anything. Like you just said, I'm busy building a curry house, is just as valid of him saying as, I don't believe in the war you want to pursue, so we're not going to be providing you with that steel. I mean, think about that. If we think that we're doing the right thing, whether it's right or not is immaterial. If we, as a country, think we're doing the right thing, it's the right thing. And we can't be beholden to somebody else to tell us, no, that's not right, so we're not going to help you. No, that's the whole point. We need to be the one that everybody wants to rely on so that we can help stop all the madness that's happening around the world. But thanks for that laugh. I mean, nope, sorry, building a curry house is excellent. That's a much better point than mine.
I'm busy doing the multicultural thing. The war is going to have to wait. But see, now, this is the former DHS secretary. Read between the lines here, okay? Steel capacity is not something that can be replaced at the snap of a finger. Should allies become unreliable or our enemies disrupt the supply chain? Now, I tend to think that this woman, I usually go the path of saying, they can't be that stupid. She's just playing politics, but she appears to be so dumb that I don't think that it applies in the case. What he's saying here is entirely true, because you mentioned just before, not that long ago, they had to fire up the foundries, right?
Yep.
They have to get the ball rolling. Now we're in that stage. Now we apply the tariffs. Where he says, should allies become unreliable, if you look at this woman who is in control of foreign relations in Canada, I would suggest that horse has bolted. Our allies are unreliable.
That horse has left the barn. That's pretty unreliable right there.
She's proving it. She's proving it. No, you are unreliable. I mean, look at this train wreck of an interview.
And also, I think what he and others are arguing is it's not so much that they see Canada as a security risk, is that the United States
look
has
at
to be more
CNN going into
self-reliant.
bat for the president.
Well,
She's
look,
fired.
what I would say there is
she's
this is
50
an
lashes.
unprecedented use of Section 232, which is the national security consideration under which these tariffs are being levied. As a matter of U.S. law, Canada is considered a part of the national defense industrial base. We have been allies and have been working together.
And you can continue to be a part of that base. You're just going to have to pay a tariff. Got a problem, sweetheart? Didn't think so.
For 150 years.
Yes.
When Jim Mattis unveiled the National Defense Strategy at the beginning of the year,
are you on first name basis with Mr. Mattis? I don't think so.
He said something really powerful, which is that history proves that nations with allies thrive. That is 100% true.
That's not what he said.
And
Yes.
so I will.
No, it's not. But what's our reference? What's our frame of reference here, James? Wait till you check this out.
I would just really say our closest allies in the world, you, the United States, please think hard about the message you're sending to your closest allies.
Well, you know,
And see that nod again. Yep. She's like, okay, here's our message to America.
Okay,
Please
kindergartners,
think
have you
hard
learned?
about what you're doing? Exactly. She's talking to you like your school children. That's exactly the vibe that I picked up. Okay, so put the coloring book down and continue buying our steel.
In response to the U.S. decision, you announced a series of retaliatory tariffs, not only on American steel and aluminum, but also a variety.
Because don't you love that? It's like, oh, come on, can't we be friends? Can't you consider that you're doing the wrong thing? Well, you're going to have to pay more for our orange juice then.
Variety of consumer goods, coffee, whiskey, tablecloths.
Whiskey.
You called it the strongest trade action Canada has taken since World War II.
Whiskey. I think the moonshiners and the bourbon producers in the South will be happy that people are going to have to pay a little bit more for that second tier dusty old Canadian whiskey, aren't they? That seems like a strange point to raise, but anyway.
Are the U.S. and Canada in a trade war?
It's a war.
You know, Dana, I prefer not to use that kind of bellicose, militaristic language when talking about trade. But
if you shoot your enemies, they win.
This is the strongest trade action Canada has taken since the Second World War.
The strongest trade action that Canada has taken since the Second World War. What? Making whiskey a little bit more expensive.
Don't forget the orange juice. Don't forget the orange juice. Yeah, they want to mess with Florida.
You're going to have to. Oh, this is a really hard line. This is the strongest action we've taken on trade since the Second World War. You're going to have to pay an extra 2 cents for a cup of coffee. That suggests to me that you haven't been hard enough on trade since the Second World War. Just put that out there.
It is perfectly reciprocal and balanced. So these will be. This will be a dollar for dollar retaliation.
A dollar for dollar retaliation, yes, because you can fight a war with whiskey and coffee, can't you? Instead of steel. It's perfectly reciprocal. It's like for like, James. You're going to jack the prices up on our steel, so guess what? You're going to have to pay a little bit more for our whiskey. It's like, oh, okay, well, there's the war effort done. What else do we need? Right?
Our action is legal under WTO rules responsibly.
The WTO, the World Trade Organization, everybody's friend, the World Trade Organization, who has led us down the path of Western destruction of their own industries over the last 40 years. The WTO says it's okay for us to raise the price on our whiskey and orange juice. Well, isn't that lovely?
She's literally putting herself in the subservient position to the World Trade Organization. Like, is she not smart enough to see that? Like, literally, this is a country telling the world that they're in charge of us. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, it gets better.
That the U.S. action, which provoked this Canadian response, is illegal under the rules of the international trading system.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't call it a
There's
trade
that nod
war,
again.
what would you describe is going on here?
Okay,
that
what is it if it's not a war?
Countries,
What is
U.S.
it?
and Canada are imposing new tariffs on one another.
Well, you know what? A word that I would not use to describe it.
That's not what you were asked. Do you see why Canada is going down the toilet, ladies and gentlemen? Why you have videos of people doing protests on their border because the borders are wide open in Canada. The economy's sinking. They're an absolute joke. They're an absolute joke in world politics.
You know what's sad?
Current administration in Canada.
These people are so lefty and so hung up. You know what's patently obvious just watching this girl is that we could literally win a trade war with them by just like bringing a puppy with us. We'll just bring a puppy to the trade negotiations.
Yeah, she comes across as the kind of girl, if you're in a trade war with her, you have two $10 notes and she's got one $50 note, and you say, I'll trade my 2 notes for your 1 note, you know, because you're getting 2 notes. Yay, I'm winning the trade war. I doubled our notes, boss. Check it out. Shut up. I'm eating my curry.
Dana is trade discussion. I've now heard a few people, including people you've been interviewing.
We can't use the term war. We have to use the word discussion. No, we wouldn't say that. That's too harsh
Canada.
as well.
This is also the EU. This is also Mexico as a trade discussion.
So what is it?
And that is to minimize something very, very serious. This is not just about words. This is about actions. Yep. And it's about actions which will hurt everyone. First and foremost, actually, American companies,
So Canada is now saying, you know, in their soft spoken tone, well, I wouldn't like to use the term war because that would be a little bit unfair. And I was taking selfies with the president last week and yep. But you know what? We're going to be forced to raise the prices on our whiskey. And guess what, America? You're screwed. Yep. Do they really that they can compete? Do these people really think that they can compete with the American economy?
Oh, they really do.
What am I missing?
They're delusional. That's what you're missing. They're literally delusional. Listen to how she's talking. She's been like the utmost condescending the entire time. On top of the condescension, she literally thinks that she's morally superior. And she's literally trying to use complete liberal lefty language tactics of, well, we don't want to call it a war. We'll call it a conflict. Well, conflict is a little bit too rough. So instead of conflict, we'll call it a discussion. Like, literally, think about that. You just pointed this out, like, on your show, on the Boogie Bumpers, where you played the, what is that group? The group, the Minutemen, what is that?
The Hollow Men.
The Hollow Men, where they like literally like that is the language game that these people are trying to play, completely ignoring all of the facts, all of the suppositions that literally you guys cannot win a trade war with us. We will bankrupt your entire country. That is how far it'll go.
I hope it does, because then the Conservatives are a sure thing to get re-elected if they're not already. Right, like that's the other thing that's going to happen, and I think, you know what, I think they know it too. I think the left in Canada knows that they're pretty much done for this cycle. So let's carry on. Only a minute or so to go.
Consumers. Canada is the single largest market for the United States, larger than China, Japan, and the UK.
So if it's not a trade war and it's not a trade discussion, what is it?
It is well, you know. Part of the issue here is it's allegedly not even about trade, right? We started our discussion describing the extent to which this is allegedly about national security.
She's been asked 2 or 3 times. Okay, so it's not a war, it's not a discussion. What do you call it? The 3rd time she's been asked. Well, I guess it's not even about trade.
I would say it is a very grave difference.
Let's make it about something else.
The closest allies of the United States and the U.S. around both national security and the global economy and the rules for the global economy.
Let me ask you a question from the point of view of President Trump. He made really clear during his campaign that his worldview is America first. And he's following through with that he pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, the Paris Climate Accord, the Iran nuclear deal, and now he's doing this. So he would ask, what's wrong with putting America first? What's your response?
I just want to give a little tip of the hat and a round of applause to this presenter on CNN, James, because I think that probably damn near killed her, defending President Trump and pointing out, you know, his America First policies and what the hell is wrong with that. But I think she's in the position of the person she's interviewing is so terrible. She can't agree. She can't agree. She has to go on the side of Donald Trump because, like, if you agree with this, that's career suicide, right?
Well, it is obviously up to Americans and American leaders to judge what are good policies for the American people.
Oh, bravo! Yay! Welcome to the real world. After we condescendingly say that, well, America, you really should think about this. And do you really want to get into a trade war? Like, ooh, there's a puppy. Isn't that a cute little puppy? Do you really want to get into a trade war with us? I mean, we're going to raise the prices on coffee and whiskey, and it's going to be really bad for you. But then she finally acknowledges at the end of the interview, at the end of the train wreck, she crawls out of the destruction on the train line, you know, limbs missing and stuff, and goes, oh, I guess it's up to America what they do. It's like, yes, now you're getting it. Now it's not up to the World Trade Organization. It's not up to Justin Trudeau. It's not up to CNN. It's up to Donald Trump and his team and the people who put him in. And that's exactly what he's doing.
I would love,
yes,
I was just going to say, I would love to point out here that this is literally an example of how statistics lie, is that she just claimed on national television that they are our largest trading partner, regardless of any other country, is Canada. But those statistics are due to transshipping, the exact reason why we want to renegotiate NAFTA. That's the only reason. So what you guys are acting is the middleman banker. In other words, we're selling you, let's pretend for a second, our steel. You're taking 10% off the top and just sticking it on another ship and shipping it somewhere else with a little Made in Canada stamp on it, and for the troubles of taking that 10% off the top. Literally, that's what they're doing. That's the only reason that statistic is like that, is because they're transshipping our goods. They're playing the middleman between us and China, between us and the UK.
James, I do feel the need to point out to you, though, buddy, it is currently illegal to misgender somebody who's trans in Canada. Please please don't mention trans shipping now. We don't
I knew where you were going before you could get there. You couldn't even get the joke out fast enough.
We don't need to get this. We definitely don't need to get the shipping company involved. Okay. It's bad enough. It's bad enough in Canada as it is. You know they name all the ships females. That has to end. Can't do that anymore.
Oh, my face hurts.
Particular policy, the imposition of tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, is going to hurt Americans first and foremost.
Oh, did you hear that? Putting a tariff on Canadian steel, ladies and gentlemen, just to finish off the circus of delusion and condescension and the speaking down. A great comment from Kimmy. Wow, we're allowed to look after ourselves now. Thank you, teacher. That's appropriate. So just to top off the delusion cavalcade, James, she says, you know what? If you engage in tariffs and trade war with Canada, it's going to hurt Americans first and foremost. So there you go. James was saying before, they want you to feel like losers. They want you to feel isolated. They want you to feel like you're getting beaten. If that beats you, ladies and gentlemen, if this performance is enough to sink the American economy due to tariffs on steel and trans ships, guess what? You deserve it. Sorry. It's not going to happen. That's your hammering.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Stop the hammering.